Hi everyone, it's Kamil, and this is a 12th episode in the series dedicated to create a cryptocurrency trading mod in Elixir. In this episode we will go back to the naive supervision tree where we will introduce a task abstraction which will help us to simplify things a bit. If you like those episodes and you would like to show your support, don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button and subscribe. Enjoy! In the last episode we made some good improvements to the supervision tree of the Naive application. In the meantime, as I was preparing that episode, some good people from the Elixir forum pointed out that we could drop Naive.Server completely. But how? How is that possible? In the end, it serves some purpose in our system. It auto-starts symbol supervisors as well as tracks them. Let's tackle one problem at a time. First, tracking. So can we get away without tracking symbol supervisors by the server? Is there a way to uniquely identify symbol supervisors per symbol? So for a given string, we will be able to somehow retrieve pits of the symbol supervisors that are responsible for it. The short answer is yes. And the clue is there inside the symbol supervisor, as inside the starting function of the symbol supervisor, we are registering every single supervisor with a name that we can figure out based just on the symbol string. If we will figure out that atom which the symbol is registered under, we can use process where is to basically translate that atom to the PID. Being able to retrieve those pits associated with specific symbols will allow us to shut down or stop trading on those symbols without tracking that association. That covers the tracking part, but there's also auto-starting performed by the Naive server, where we will put all that logic of fetching settings from the database and auto-starting those symbol supervisor processes. So at this moment our dynamic symbol supervisor is a box standard implementation of the dynamic supervisor that comes with the Elixir. We can also use dynamic supervisor behavior to get the whole module that we will be able to copy paste the logic from the Naive server that will perform auto starting for us. So I can already hear people asking, Kamil, but you basically told us to avoid putting logic inside the supervisors. And that would be correct. So maybe I wasn't precise enough. You should avoid putting any logic inside the supervisor processes. Think about the task as a new process, and that process will use the logic that is inside the dynamic supervisor module, but it will be a separate process. So let's get to the code and everything will become clear. The first step will be to create a dynamic symbol supervisor file inside the Naive application and fill it with the default implementation from the dynamic supervisor docs plus additional logger and registering it with a name. So this module will replace the dynamic supervisor referenced by the Naive supervisor module. It will also hold all logic to start, stop, and shut down trading as well as auto start trading from the Naive server module. Instead of moving those functions over to the dynamic supervisor module, we will write them from scratch as they are a little bit different from their current implementation inside the Naive server. Okay, first one to write will be start trading function. Immediately we can see that it contains all the starting logic instead of delegating it to the callback using either genserver call or cast functions. As we don't track symbols and pits associated with them anymore, we don't need to deal with the state. All three functions, start, stop and shut down, will follow the same pattern. They will try to fetch the pit of the symbol supervisor associated with the past symbol, and based on the result they will perform different actions. In the start trading, we used three different helper functions that we will utilize across the start, stop and shutdown functions. The getPit function is just a convenience wrapper for the process where is function. The update trading status is almost a copy-paste of the Naive server's implementation, just with additional guards to make sure that the symbol is also a binary. We need to remember to import ecto and add couple aliases at the top of the module to get those helper functions to work. The last method is again similar to the one from the Naive.Server, but we don't need to monitor the symbol supervisor process as all the heavy lifting is done by the dynamic supervisor now. Getting back to the start, stop and shut down trading functions. This time we will add the stop trading function. As with the start trading, everything follows the same flow, including fetching the symbol supervisor PID and taking different actions based on the result. It's nice to point out that we don't need to do so much work here as previously inside the Naive.Server's implementation. As dynamic symbol supervisor is in charge of the supervising as it should be, we just need to let it know that it needs to terminate one of the children. Moving to the shutdown function, again the same style, fetching PID and branching the logic based on the results. The final functionality of this module will be the autostart trading function that will be performed by the task. It will call the fetch symbols to trade function that is exactly the same as the old implementation in the Naive.Server, which we need to copy over to our dynamic symbol supervisor module. We can now safely remove the Naive.Server module and continue to the Naive Symbol Supervisor module, where we will drop the restart option as we would like the Naive Dynamic Symbol Supervisor to handle the supervision for us. As we are already inside this file, we will update the registered name of the Dynamic Supervisor to something more meaningful, like Dynamic Trader Supervisor. Changing this name will have a knock-on effect on the Naive Leader, which uses it to start the Naive Traders. We will need to update the process name inside the start new trader function of the Naive Leader. Beside that, as we already dropped the Naive.Server, we need to update two references to it inside the Naive Leader, and we will change those to the main Naive module. We can now update the Naive Supervisor module to start our new Naive Dynamic Symbol Supervisor together with an auto-starting task in the REST for one strategy. The final step will be to update the Naive interface to allow to start, stop and shut down trading on a symbol. As we don't need any logic here, we will use dev delegate that will forward our function calls to the Dynamic Symbol Supervisor module. That finishes the changes in this episode. We can now start the IEX shell and look at the observer as we will start trading. Things to observe here is that the auto start trading task disappears after finishing its job, and both Dynamic Symbol Supervisor and Dynamic Trader Supervisor have more descriptive names than previously. That's a wrap for this video. I know that it's in completely different form than my previous videos. I wanted to make it a little bit more entertaining and a little bit more concise, and I would love to know your opinion about it. Do you prefer the old screencasting format or this new format that is a little bit more time efficient, let's call it? Otherwise, don't forget to comment, to leave your opinion, smash that like button as this always helps, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next episode.